meeting of the Danville School Board, April 1st meeting of the Danville School Board to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Atkins? Mr. Payne?
Here.
Dr. Campbell? Mr. McWilliams?
Here.
Ms. Hughes?
Here.
Mr. Graves?
Here.
Mrs. Cobb?
Here. Thank you. Next, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda. It's been moved by Dr. Campbell, seconded by Ms. Hughes to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Campbell? Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mr. McWilliams?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobb?
Yes. Thank you. At this time, if you all would stand with us as Dr. Campbell leads us in a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to move to section 2, approval of minutes. If there are no corrections or additions, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented? These are minutes from March 3rd and March 17th.
Madam Chair, so moved.
Been moved by Mr. Gray, second by Dr. Campbell to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mr. McWilliams?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobb?
Yes. Thank you. Now we move to 3.1. We have few consent items, well, one consent item, VSBA Business on the Road. Is there a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, so moved.
So.
It's been moved by Mr. Gray, second by Mr. Payne to approve the consent items. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mr. McWilliams?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobb?
Yes. Next, we will move to 3.2. Well, I'm sorry, we have another consent item. Sorry about that.
It's 3.2.
3.2 tuition application report. And is there a motion to, does someone need to come up?
It's a consent.
Okay, consent items. Anybody have, is there a motion to approve? There's no questions.
Madam Chair, so moved.
Second. It's been moved to approve the tuition application report. Mr. Graves moved and Ms. Hughes seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Mr. McWilliams?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mist Cobb?
Yes. I feel like I skipped
The
one.
microphone, this is hard to hear. I don't know if it's a plexiglass or what. I can't.
He came and did something to it. Can you all hear?
It's fine
Yes.
here.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to see my ear doctor.
Okay. All right, so I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anything there. 3.1, 3.2, okay. All right, next we move to section 4, 4.1, and we will hear from Ms. Hightower. We'll be recognizing the regional spelling bee winner. I think we have them via Zoom, so
Yeah.
welcome tonight. Okay, thank you all for being here. I turn it over to you, Ms. Hightower.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Superintendent, School Board members, and the audience. Thank you so much for allowing us to join you this evening. On this call, I have Hope Abernathy, one of my 7th grade English teachers who served as our spelling bee coordinator, and our honoree, Ms. Zaire Stevens, who is a 6th grade student at Westwood Middle School, and also our regional spelling bee winner. And I think she deserves just a hand of applause. We are so proud of her. What a great accomplishment. But I would like to first turn it over to Ms. Abernathy, just to have her share just a few tidbits about the spelling bee process before turning things over to Ms. Zaire here, giving her an opportunity to share about her experience and what's next. All right, Ms. Abernathy.
Well, good evening, good evening.
Good evening.
Be able to join everybody. And I will say, hopefully my internet will sustain us through for the time. So I did have the pleasure of coordinating this year's spelling bee and was pleasantly surprised. For the 5 years, I think I've been there 5 years at Westwood, this was the highest participated spelling bee. So very excited about that. And was even, especially with it being virtual. So everything was done virtual this year. And all the students had to sign an integrity pledge and had 20 words to spell. And they had an hour in which to do so. And Zaire was one of many sixth graders who knocked it out of the park with 19 out of 20 words that she spelled correctly. These were, I don't even know that I would to use in regular discussion. And so very, very proud of her to see that win and that accomplishment. And I was even more pleased to watch her that Saturday for the local spelling bee, which was our district in Pennsylvania County, and I believe some of the private schools in our area as well participated. And I was cheering her on as I traveled to Raleigh that day to watch her take home the victory for Westwood and of course DPS as well. And very excited. I'm gonna let her kind of talk a little bit about that process and what it was like to know that she was heading to the winner's circle. Zaire, I'm gonna turn it over to you, honey.
Hi, my name is Zaire, and I was in first place in all of the first spelling bees that we have did, and I'm actually excited for the national spelling bee. It wasn't easy, but I had made through it. It was hard, especially for the last word. It was a challenge because I didn't want to get that word wrong, so I had to repeat it. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Congratulations again to Zaire, and we wish her well as she moves on to the nationals.
Congratulations, Zaire, and thank you all for supporting her and all of the students. We appreciate it. And let's give her another round of applause. Next, we'll move to section 5.1. We will hear from Ms. Sharon Barksdale on the 2021-2022 budget proposal. Welcome, Ms. Barksdale.
As she comes forward, Madam Chair, members of the board, before we present our first budget, I want to say thank you to Director Barksdale and her team, as well as Cabinet, for the long hours they spent developing the budget, as well as our city manager helping us through the process. As we're well aware, Danville Public Schools, we face a pivotal moment here in our pursuit of excellence. Our collective focus has to be on the children and on our teachers and creating that classroom environment that is so very positive as we move forward to addressing our student achievement. So in this budget, you'll hear things like reduced class sizes, additional classroom space to move to 5 to 5, employee raises. All of these things move us closer to our goal of excellence. And we also have included some recommendations for funds for additional wraparound services. So again, I want to thank the team for bringing this budget to you and collectively putting everything together, spending the long hours developing a budget that budget recommendation that is focused on, again, supporting that classroom experience for children.
Thank you. Dr. Harrison?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So for the budget for next year, we talked about earlier how Governor Northam had amended the 2022 budget on December 16th, 2020. And he then sent that to the joint session, the Senate and House Finance Committees, and they adopted final changes to the budget on February 27th, 2021. And then it goes back to the budget, and he's scheduled to reconvene his session to consider their changes on April 7th, 2021. So for now, our budget is based on the conference version of the budget presented by the House and Senate. And as you can see here, our state revenue is proposed to be $48,745,300. To that, we have our local funds from the city of $22.8 million. And then we'll hopefully generate about $1 million from other sources. So our total operating budget for fiscal year 22 will be $72,570,639. To add to that, we also have federal grant funds of about $6.5 million. We have a CARES Act ESSER fund that we'll talk about later of $13.2 million. Capital outlay of $6.1 million, and then our child nutrition budget is estimated about $4.7 million. So our proposed budget for next year for Danville Public Schools is $103,101,208. On this slide, we're showing how our revenues are generated, and this is just the local, the operating revenues. So 62% is from the state, 29% from local, 8% from the federal, and then 1% other. This slide shows our operating revenues as well. From the state, we have 3 sections. The next slide brings us back to that total from the state of $48,745,300 for fiscal year 22. And I'll just point out a couple of things. Our compensation supplement is $1.3 million that they're proposing. And then highlighted in red, we see that we will receive also the no loss funding again for fiscal year 22. We received that this year because everybody's student numbers are down, so the state are holding us harmless for fiscal year 21 and 22. Okay, so added to those state funds, we have our city funds and our local funds, which brings us to the $72.5 million total operating budget. And this is a slide showing our ADM, our student attendance for the last 10 years, and as you can see, it has steadily declined. And so our state funding is really tied to these numbers. For 22, we're looking at student attendance of 5,336 students. So that's what our budget will be based on. And the reason why that is significant is because next year, we won't be held harmless like we are this year. So we will really need to increase our enrollment in order to make up for lost funds, because the states will not continue to hold us harmless. And the reason that's so important is because 86% of our budget is personnel costs. So with decreasing enrollment and increasing personnel costs, it really makes it hard to balance the budget. And as you can see in the blue, that's our salaries for our employees, and then the orange above that is our benefits for our employees. So on those bars, 86% is personnel costs. Okay, and so Coretta Lipscomb and Dr. Newton are here tonight. They're going to talk a little bit about our personnel. Coretta's going to talk about organization charts, and Dr. Newton, and she will also talk about staffing.
Thank you, Ms. Barksdale. And welcome, Ms. Lipson.
Thank you, Ms. Barksdale and Madam Chair and school board members. Good evening.
Good evening.
So the impetus for the creation of the organization chart was from the corrective action plan as a management tool and represents the structure of Danville Public Schools. It highlights how departments are organized and the reporting relationships across Danville Public Schools, and then every individual's role within Danville Public Schools. And you all should have the full organization charts in your folders. And then also you can see here and it's kind of small, but the division governance and administration chart. And then the rest follow after that show the relationship of all of the other positions within Danville Public Schools. So now we're going to talk about the staffing process that we went through this year in order to staff Danville Public Schools. And it has been, let me go back to the org chart for just a second, because I do have to put Dr. Harrison on the spot. We have worked together on this org chart, and we have, it's a work in progress, and so we are continuing to look at what our needs are for our students. And so, so we're continuing to work and make sure that is the best that it can be for our division. So now, let's talk about our staffing process for this year. So the General Assembly and the Virginia Department of Education believe that the fundamental goal of the public schools of the Commonwealth must be to enable each student to develop the skills that are necessary for success in school, preparation for life, and reaching their full potential. With this goal in mind, the VDOE has set forth standards of quality, or you'll hear the acronym SOQ, that contain staffing requirements for instructional, administrative, and support staff in Virginia public schools. The VDOE also understands, though, that they must rely on the Danville School Board to provide the necessary personnel to maintain our school system. Dr. Hairston, understanding the necessity and value of utilizing staffing standards based on state SOQ, tasked us in December with developing a staffing guide for Danville Public Schools to provide a base level of equity for staffing all locations to assist in transparent budgetary planning, and ensure compliance with state standards. So at this time, Dr. Newton will provide a bit more detail regarding the format of the guide and how this information is being used on a more granular level. Dr. Newton?
Thank you, Ms. Lipson. Welcome, Dr. Newton. Good evening.
So what you see on the screen and what you have in your packets as well, after we get through the information at the beginning of the staffing guide, our goal then was to take the ratios that are provided in the standards of quality, which for instructional staff are numbers of students against the adults that serve them. That is the basis, and it is equitable because all school divisions in the state adhere to the standards of quality as a minimum, and then we go over and above that as needed within the division. So on the school staffing charts, you're seeing an elementary chart, but there is one for each level, for elementary, for middle, high, and so on and so forth. The orange column is what we do in Danville Public Schools. So that is what we are currently doing. The blue column is actually the state requirement. It is what is funded by the state. If we meet the ratio in the central column, then we receive the funding according to that. The yellow column is enhancement. So anything we would want to do over and above what is funded by the state according to the standards of quality minimum criteria. We took those charts and we turned them into allocation sheets for the principals to use when we met with them. So for an elementary school, we took the number of students that they are currently working with, and that is in the far column, so you can see what they've got for virtual and what they've got for face-to-face, towards the beginning of the 2020-21 is what they were last year. When we were not virtual or face-to-face, we were all in school. So you can see the difference between one year and the next. So straight down in the 2020-21 column is the teachers that were allotted to them last year. Then you have where they are with virtual and face-to-face according to what our registrations and what our parents have told us it will be for next year. We staff the school according to face-to-face enrollment. And we did a ratio that would allow the students to be adequately spaced in the rooms. So the state ratio for kindergarten may have been 1 to 24. We looked at a 1 to 14 or 12 based on the space in a classroom so that we can adhere to our pandemic standards and have everyone in a safe learning environment. So you can see in the 2021-22 column the number of teachers that are allotted, and you don't see a big change this year because we are making sure we have done what we need to do to keep our students and our teachers safe in instruction. And the rest of the form talks about the administrative position and then the classified positions, which Ms. Lipscomb will talk about.
Thank you.
So SLQ actually funds classified positions as well, or what we call educational support personnel. So if you should have a staffing sheet in your folder, but if you were able to look further down, you'll see how we allocate those positions for administrative or clerical positions, and of course, like I said, those are funded through SLQ. Some are funded through SLQ. And then also, like for custodians, we actually look at the average square footage in each building as to how much each custodian should be able to clean to maintain the cleanliness of each school at a level that is acceptable, especially in these in the COVID standards. And then you'll also see other support positions that are staffed based on number of students in schools, et cetera. So, okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so we just want to also share some highlights of the budget. These two items are things that are mandated, things that we have to provide. So our utilities, we have included a small increase for our utilities for next year, $171,664. And we've also included a 5% increase for our general liability and workers' compensation insurance. And also in our budget for fiscal year 22, we have included a raise. The conference budget includes a 5% raise for SOQ funded positions over the biennium. That's over fiscal years 21 and 22. The budget for fiscal year 22 includes a step plus an additional percentage that will yield an average of 3.5% for all employees. And this, of course, is pending the governor's approval of the conference budget, which included that raise for employees. Also, school has been extended by 5 days to address the learning loss of students during the pandemic. And so teachers will receive a stipend of $1,500, and other qualifying employees will receive their daily rate of pay for the extended work days for the upcoming year. And those salaries will be paid through the CARES funding. Also, to facilitate the reduced class sizes to support social distancing, we have included 67 certified teachers. We've also added the virtual academy at Taylor. We are adding 8 literacy specialists for elementary and middle school, and these teachers will have credentials including master's degrees or reading endorsements. The parent liaison that are currently centrally located will be relocated to the schools. And we are increasing our instructional technology resource teachers by 4 positions. And we're also adjusting our security guards so that we will have 13 full-time security guards next year. To support social and emotional learning for our students, we have partnered this school year with Danville, Pennsylvania Community Services. They are providing us 4 mental health counselors, and we will continue to use those counselors next year. We will continue to partner with Danville, Pennsylvania Community Services. We will be adding 5 additional social workers through the CARES Act funding. We'll also be adding 2 additional school counselors because of the SOQ staffing requirement changed by the state. It was 1 counselor per 375 students. They changed that to 1 counselor per 325 students. And as you heard at the last meeting, I believe, our security guards have been trained to assist pupil support services with attendance, and they are making home visits to try to encourage our students to come to school and to participate in their learning. Wanted to give you a breakdown of the CARES Act funding, and the ESSER 2 fund is the grant award that we will receive, and the period of that award it covers from March 13th, 2020 to September 30th, 2022. The application due date is today, and the total award of that grant is $13,212,918. And on the next slide, we've broken down how we have budgeted those funds. Salaries and benefits, $7.6 million. Contracted services, and the salaries and benefits are for teachers and social workers, paraprofessionals, custodians. Contracted services of $200,000. We'll have furniture, PPE, and other supplies for $347,000. We'll be putting in a security system at the virtual academy, and that will be $97,000. Technology, $2.8 million for technology. And then some facilities, upgrades. A lot of that work will be done at Taylor for the virtual academy, getting it up to serve our students. And then we'll also be doing the bipolar ionization for the air quality at all of the schools, and that's $827,000. And more touchless water fountains in our schools, and also audio intercom system at the virtual academy. So that's how we have budgeted the $13.2 million in CARES funds. We also included the CIP, which most of you, I think, have seen before. It's a 5-year plan for taking care of some of the bigger projects at Danville Public Schools. And these needs were identified by our maintenance staff and the Department of Public Works for the city. And in this CIP, we have included the track at GW, as well as resurfacing the track at Langston. And everything has been in consideration of a possible 1% increase in sales tax in the near future. And I believe that is all that I have for the budget presentation. If anyone has any questions.
In the folder, you have the PowerPoint presentation, the staffing guide that we use for allocations, the organizational chart, and the CIP. So you have those documents. And if you have
Ms. Hughes? Ms. Hughes?
I know we've heard recently that the recommendations for the spacing of children is supposed to be 3 feet now, if I'm not mistaken. Do y'all have any plans to go back? I know this is a huge process or whatever. Are we just going to leave it at the 6 feet rather than going back and
Virginia didn't change. Did Virginia adopt those recommendations?
So the CDC has recommended that we can use 3 feet. However, the Virginia Department of Education has still not changed their interim guidance. We're waiting to see if they will follow what the CDC has suggested, but they have not released that information yet.
And right now, we budgeted, and our CARES dollars gives us enough to budget for 6 feet, so we don't really foresee a reason to do that.
Does anybody, Mr. Payne?
My question, the budget for the track for GW, was that including the sewer problem that we're having to, the problem with the track, the field?
Yes, that's addressed.
That's included. Thank you.
Anyone else have questions? Dr. Campbell?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation.
You're very welcome.
The 1%, the budget is other. What is other?
On the, well, there are certain things that we, it could be, like Medicaid is included in that. We get money from that for our students when we file some of our things for Medicaid. We also may get refunds for certain things, rebates. Used to be summer school, but I don't think our kids are having to pay right now. But certain things, when there's student fees involved.
And my other question is $1,500. Will taxes be taken out of that?
Yes.
Yes.
We're required to do that.
And by law, we're required
We
to
won't
take
take
out
any, we won't take things like retirement or anything out of it, but we're required it's taxable income.
And the only reason that I'm bringing it up, because that has been a problem in the past, when somebody's thinking they're gonna get a certain amount, then it's $1,000 or less,
Yes.
And I know some other divisions, they just allow them to pay it when they do their taxes or file their taxes, so.
Well,
I understand
and okay. That-
Go ahead.
That's probably,
I know that has been somewhat of a problem. When you tell a person, we're gonna give you $1,500, and then when they get their check, it's $700.
I don't know that we have a choice in that. We'd have to talk to Mr., we'll look at it. I'm not sure we have it does notify the teacher, it's an addendum to the contract, the federal, state, and FICA taxes will be deducted. But there are other things that are not deducted from it, so we'll check.
I would just like for them to get as much as that as we possibly could get them.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Ms. McWilliams?
I just had one question related to the CARES Act. I know that I'm just going back to it, $7.6 million for salaries and social workers, but those positions, is that raises to people, or is that going to be like, because I look at CARES, it's not permanent, so eventually those positions will go away.
So so part of that will be the additional money, the additional $1,500 in the week. So that's temporary, the 5 days. In fact, the teacher contract will read, it will not include the 5 days in the 180. So it'll start out with the 180 and 5 is an additional. It doesn't take the teacher over the 200-day contract, but it does change the days separately. And then the positions that we hire, they will be advertised as grant positions. So theoretically, if a principal has 3 teachers in 3rd grade, they're given an additional teacher position so they can reduce class sizes and make those classes somewhere between 14 and 18. But that employee, when we hire for grants, you all probably don't know this, but when we hire grant-funded positions, they're notified. So we'll give notice that it's a CARES position. But we do know sometimes a privilege becomes a right in people's minds.
Any more questions for Ms. Barksdale? So thank you, Ms. Barksdale, and Dr. Newton, Ms. Lipscomb, and Dr. Harrison, everybody who's worked on this, and I know the Finance Committee has worked on it as well. So now we will open the public hearing or public comment on the proposed budget for the school year.
That's what signed up.
Okay. All right. have something to read for this one? I don't think so.
Or are you doing the public hearing?
No, the public, the hearing for the budget.
Right, so that's different than public comment.
Gotcha.
Right.
So we can just welcome, okay. So Ms. Robertson. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Cobbs, members of the board, Dr. Harrison, and other central office staff. My name is Kim Robertson, president of the Danville Education Association. The association is teachers, bus drivers, secretaries, paraprofessionals, united under the label of educators. I appreciate the opportunity to comment on the proposed 2021-22 school board budget. Danville Public Schools has benefited from a much improved state revenue picture. The budget sent to the governor restores more than 95% of the funding removed from the budget last spring due to COVID and included $845 million in new policy spending. In addition, Danville received over $13 million in CARES Act funding. The association is pleased to see that the proposed budget includes a step increase plus an average 3.5% salary increase. You as a board are to be commended for your continued commitment to maintaining the teacher salary schedule that was overhauled several years ago. DEA had long advocated for the restoration of the salary schedule, which was a result of an outside study. In addition, we are glad to see that the salary schedules for classified and non-teaching personnel have been maintained. Our support staff is vital to the smooth operation of our schools and deserve the best compensation possible. This proposed budget shows your commitment to competitive salaries for teachers. Indeed, in our region, the latest salary figures show that Danville is ranked number 1 in beginning salary and number 2 in 5 years' experience. However, another critical factor in retaining teachers is their working conditions, which are our students' learning conditions. The COVID pandemic has been particularly challenging for school districts across the country. In Danville, we have seen additional duties added to an already full plate of responsibilities, which has resulted in tremendous stress and frustration. Classroom teachers lose planning time on a regular basis due to meetings or having to cover classes due to lack of substitutes. Danville has already seen some excellent teachers leave in recent years. We can ill afford to become a temporary stop on the way to other school districts. Teachers are working diligently on behalf of their students. Administrators, be they central office officials or school principals, should be doing everything in their power to support teachers, not place additional burdens on them. Every budget decision should address these needs in order to attract and retain quality educators. Barack Obama once said that a budget is more than just a series of numbers on a page. It is an embodiment of our values. This proposed budget demonstrates that you value your staff by improving salaries. The DEA urges you to go further by ensuring that our teachers and support personnel have the most optimal conditions in which to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. We appreciate your comments and good to see you tonight. And that was the only comment we had for the budget, so at this time, I will close the hearing on that. At this time, we will move to section 7.1, the public may address the board. Did we have anyone signed up for that, Mr. Cheney?
No.
For the regular comments, public comments? Okay. Now, section 8.1, we will receive information on virtual versus face-to-face update, and we will welcome Dr. Newton back to give that update.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, board members, superintendent, and guests that are here with us today. I bring to you just a couple of slides on where we are as far as virtual versus face-to-face registrations for next year. Students will attend school 5 days a week. We've already covered that, but I'm going to just review that. We're working on reduced class sizes to meet the safety restrictions that we need. Social distancing and personal protective equipment will be required for those students that are attending face-to-face. The virtual academy that will be in the Taylor building, students will attend school 5 days a week. There will be synchronous instruction with periods of asynchronous. We'll be using Canvas and Virtual Virginia, as we are this year, as our learning management system. There will be teachers that are DPS teachers connected to the students' base school will be providing that instruction, and then we may have some students in Virtual Virginia, and students who are not experiencing success will be considered for other supports. So this is where we are today as far as our virtual versus face-to-face for next year. 3,797 students, that's 74% of our students wish to be face-to-face, which is wonderful, and we will meet their needs. About 25.8% will attend the virtual academy, and that is a K-12 experience. If you want to see it by a grade level distribution, with kindergarten, you're only seeing about 138 students there. We have more kindergartners than that. But remember that initially we looked at what parents indicated by online survey, and now we're looking at the actual school-based registrations. So we held the registration event in March, and those things are being transferred into the computer, so that number will continue to move up. We do have more kindergartners than that. And then as you look through, you can see that it's pretty consistent, the split across the grades. With kindergarten will probably remain like it is, that the majority of those parents want those students in school. So you can see our virtual face-to-face by grade level. And that's it for that. Any questions about our virtual versus face-to-face?
Anyone have any questions for Dr. Newton on this area? No questions for Dr. Newton. So next we will hear from you again. As well, testing update.
All right, this is our spring 2021 SOL testing update. And there are some differences for this spring, of course, because we're in the middle of a pandemic and we have not all of our students face-to-face. So some of this information went home to the parents of 3rd through 8th graders earlier this week, but I wanted to share it with you all so you would be aware of what's going on. So just a reminder about why we SOL test. We SOL test so that students have information and teachers have information that is pertinent to their instruction. We find out where they are in the trajectory of mastery of the standards of learning, which is our required curriculum in the state of Virginia. We also do it for graduation because high school students have to earn standard credits and verified credits. Verified credit means that I passed the SOL attested accompanying that class. So we do it for that. And then we do it for accountability, which there's not been a lot of talk about state and federal accountability this year because we're all accreditation waived. We will all be accreditation waived next year, but the year after that, accreditation comes back for federal and for state, and we have to be mindful of that and preparing for that. So the SOL tests that are currently given are listed in that box for you. I'm not going to read them all. They're there because I'm going to compare them in a minute to something else. So this year, the state is offering a remote testing option. This is not an SOL test. It is a progress test for those students who are 100% virtual, whose parents refuse to send them to school for face-to-face. So what happens, and has been happening at the high school since October, and we just finished writing testing at the 8th grade in the middle school, we invite the 100% virtual students to come into our building to face-to-face SOL test with their peers. If they choose not to, we have not had an option up to this point. But because knowing where our kids are, especially after the year of not the same instruction we typically provide, is really crucial, the state is providing this opportunity. So the remote option is a test that can be taken at home. It is only for elementary and middle school students in grades 3 through 8 for reading, math, and for science. There are no history tests for remote progress, and there are no end of course tests. So if I am a high school student or if I'm an 8th grader that's in Algebra 1 or geometry, I still have to come to school and test face-to-face. But if I am a 3rd through 8th grader in reading or math or science, then I can test at home if I'm 100% virtual. So what is the Virginia Remote Student Progress Test? It is not an SOL test. It is a static test, meaning that I get 40 or 50 items and I answer them, and it's not computer adaptive like the reading and math tests are for the 3rd through 8th graders in school. It will give you a level of mastery of the standards of learning, but it is given at home, so it does not have the same security requirements that exist for SOL testing in the building. The only test available, and if you recall the box of SOL tests that are available to everyone, are grades 3 through 8 reading, grades 3 through 8 math, not algebra 1 or geometry if you're at the middle school, and then science at grades 5 through 8. So we will have SOL tests for students in school, we'll have Virginia Remote for students at home in those areas. So side-by-side comparison of what we have going on. The students who will be SOL testing face-to-face in school during the month of May are 100% virtual students whose parents bring them to school or allow us to transport them to school to SOL test face-to-face with their peers. The students who are currently in school face-to-face and hybrid will SOL test at school. They are not eligible for Virginia Remote because they are not 100% virtual. So they must SOL test in school. Students enrolled in end-of-course tests at the high school and then retesters for end-of-course. Those students will all take SOL tests and they are in the blue box. In the orange box, students who are 100% virtual, whose parents will not send them to school to test, take the Virginia Remote. Go ahead. So again, comparisons. All the tests on the left are the SOL tests that are taken face-to-face. On the right are the choices. Go ahead. If they test in school, it's a computer adaptive test for reading and math for grades 3 through 8. That means that the questions change based on the way you are answering questions. The science tests are static tests. If you are testing in school, we will receive reports by student, by question and item, by the test, by the teacher, and by the school. And those SOL scores for the SOL tests that are taken in school become the basis for growth. And I'll review what that is in a moment. If you test at home, you have a static test for reading and math, meaning it's not going to be computer adaptive, 40 questions, I go through and I answer them. The science is the same as that. And then the parent will be provided with reports by student and by question and item, and we will also have access to them in school, but the state will not combine those results. So as a school, we will not have a true pass rate of what happened with all students in a grade, because those are two different assessments. They are not equivalent, though they both measure the SOL. So the accountability review, because this has implications for accreditation that I've talked with principals about and I want to share with you. If you recall what our targets are when this comes back next year actually, we are looking for, in reading and math, for all students in our gap groups to have 75% pass rate for reading, 75% for writing for all students, and then for math, 70%, for science for 70%. That is where our state accountability is coming from. The other piece is student engagement that is judged at the state. Student engagement for all schools is your chronic absenteeism. You want less than 15% of your students to be absent more than 10% of the time. And then graduation is for the high school, graduation completion index, and the dropout rate. And then the new item that we have talked a little bit about is the college career and civic readiness. This has nothing to do with the testing I'm talking about, but when accreditation comes back, we will have to meet that target. So that's the components of accreditation. Next slide.
Can you pause there and go
Yes.
back and explain to everyone what the college and career readiness, what constitutes that index?
Yes. You know, each year, Ms. Cully comes to you and she talks about all the great things that happen with CTE. Well, this measure has been added to accountability for the high school. So we are looking at what happens in CTE courses, what happens in workplace studies. We're looking at how are we preparing our students beyond the academic to be able to walk out of high school and be prepared to succeed in a variety of areas. So that would be a score for both of our high schools. And we've been monitoring that, but it actually becomes actionable in 2022-23.
So that's the industry certifications that's
All of that is a part of it. There's many components, just like with the GCI, there's lots of components that we get points for, but it is the work that is happening in CTE that will support us there. So, why this is important as far as whether or not kids take an SOL test or a Virginia Remote. Remember I said the Virginia Remote is not a basis for growth. This is how growth helps us from one year to the next for reading and math. If you test students, and I put the targets on the left just a reminder, suppose we test 10 students on an SOL for reading and math, and this does not count for science, only for reading and math. Out of those 10 students who took that SOL test, only 6 of them actually passed. They made a score of 400 to 600, so they passed the test. Well, those students who didn't pass the test in a previous year but made enough growth to show that I'm not sitting stagnant, I'm getting better and better at my math or reading, but I may not have made it over the hump to pass a test, those students count as an effective pass for SOL testing for the combined rate. Any student who is an English learner who makes progress on their Access for ELS test, that is the language acquisition test that we give each year, if they make their yearly progress towards acquiring the English language proficiency, then they also count as passes if they don't pass the reading test. So if we have a basis for growth, meaning that we have a score this spring for reading and for math for an SOL test, these students are eligible to be an effective pass for accreditation even if they don't pass the SOL test, but they make appropriate growth. Any student who is Virginia remote will not be included here because they do not have an SOL test for this year. So we want to encourage our remote students to come in and test with everyone else so we have the same measure of knowing where they are in terms of acquiring the SOL. So just a reminder, there's 3 choices for parents in grades 3 through 8. The letters about this went home in their report cards on Tuesday, and we are awaiting the decision for the 100% virtual students as to whether or not they will come in to test because we have to set up transportation for them, so we're asking early. You can test face to school in school. You can do Virginia remote at home if you're 100% virtual, or a parent can refuse to have any kind of SOL testing done with their student. If they do that, they are coded because we have to account for every student in grades 3 through 8 because this is a state requirement. So they either will have an SOL test, a Virginia remote test, or I will code them a 52, which is a parent refusal due to the pandemic. So if parents are uncomfortable sending them in, there's no consequence. There's just a code. The letter was sent home. We're waiting on the choices back by Monday, April 12th. And end of course is not impacted by this. So if anybody asks about any course that's high school or a test that's high school, has nothing to do. There is no Virginia remote. We still need those kids to test face-to-face so that they can get their verified credits. I think that's the last slide. Are there any questions?
Anyone have questions for Dr. Newton? I do have one, Dr. Newton. I had a parent that asked about if the child didn't take it, how will it affect the student? Like if they get to a certain grade?
They simply won't have the information. They won't have the consistent information with a state test. And I will code all those who do not come to test and do not take Virginia remote. I'll code them a 52.
But there are some SOLs that are required to graduate though, correct?
Yes, that's why there is no remote option for high school students.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Dr. Newton? Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Newton. Let's see, next we will hear from Ms. Bowman. We will get an update on the AVID program. Welcome, Ms. Bowman.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am excited about the opportunity to bring to you an update this afternoon on information regarding AVID. And of course, you'll hear an acronym. And AVID simply stands for Advanced Via Individual Determination. In 2018, we had AVID at our high school, at George Washington High School. AVID was funded at that time through our GEROP grant. And GEROP simply stands for Gaining Early Awareness for Readiness for Undergraduate Program. That group of students, it was a cohort group. They started in the 7th grade, not with AVID, but with GEROP. They started in the 7th grade all the way to the 12th grade. When in their junior year, we had an opportunity to implement AVID. AVID, of course, is a college career readiness program. As you heard Dr. Newton say earlier, we have to do more than just get our students to graduate. We want them to graduate and be prepared to either attend college or to attend a career. So everything that we possibly can do in order to assist them with that. And AVID has been proven to be successful with that. So we're looking at the implementation for the next school year to begin with our 8th grade students and our 9th grade students. We're not focusing on the elementary yet because for our elementary, we want to focus on literacy. So we want to have a much more robust implementation of AVID this coming year. So with us tonight, and hopefully they're on, We have two representatives from AVID. We have Dr. Jamie Lomax, who has worked with us in the past. She is the Eastern Region Associate Area Director, and then Albert goes by Beto Howell, and he is the Partner Engagement Manager. And they're going to walk you through an introduction of AVID. They on? Can we hear them? Hello? Ms. Kim Agner and I, we have been involved in the meetings, starting the implementation process, and of course, Ms. Agner is the coordinator of Gifted and Home Services. So I think she's out there as well. Okay. She may can get Beto on the phone.
There he is.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome, Madam Chair of the Board and Superintendent Harrison. This is Beto here from AVID, and we also have Dr. Jamie Lomax as well.
Thank you all for being with us tonight.
We appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, Dr. Lomax, again, welcome. If you all want to get started with the slides.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Okay.
So just wanted to provide a brief overview of AVID for you all this evening, and happy to answer any questions, Dr. Lomax and myself. If we can go to the next slide. So AVID is a nonprofit organization. AVID is an acronym. It stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. And our mission is to help school districts close the opportunity gaps by preparing students for college readiness and success in a global society. We've been around for over 40 years now, and we exist in 48 states. We have over 7,500 AVID schools, and we train over 85,000 educators every year. And our overall impact is over 2 million students. And then I'm just going to ask Dr. Jamie Lomax to speak to this. This is our AVID framework here.
Thank you. So the AVID system is based in what we consider to be our college and career readiness framework. Our framework basically encompasses how AVID truly works. What we believe at AVID is that there are particular components that students need: the rigorous academic preparation, opportunity knowledge, and also student agency. So rigorous academic preparedness comes from, again, being able to offer students those opportunities for those rigorous academic classes and so forth. And then also with opportunity knowledge, what we believe is that students should be able to have the opportunity to be able to understand what they can attain and what type of aspirations they actually have the potential to achieve. And so it's all about making sure that we put forth in front of our students those opportunities that are possible and prepare them to achieve those. And then student agency, but what we believe and why we have it at the core is because we do want to always make sure that our students have a voice and that they're able to advocate for themselves and also for their own aspirations. This framework is set up by design very strategically. What we have at the bottom is our college and career readiness, because we believe that these three components comprise premier college and career readiness. We also know that in order for students to be able to get what they need, that there are certain things educators must do. And so when we look at, again, what is it that our educators need to be able to do in order to help our students achieve. It is insist upon those rigorous opportunities, allow and assist in breaking down barriers for our students, making sure that all of the work in the school and across various content areas align, and then also serving as an advocate for students. So when we know what students need and understand what educators must do, that's when, again, we come together and able to have what we consider to be a college and career premier system. This framework is also rooted in our 4 domains, which you will see in each corner: instruction, systems, culture, and leadership. Adopting the AVID College Readiness System will provide you with resources, tools, and professional learning to develop all 4 of those areas. Every school has instruction. Every school has systems that they need to continue to work on and refine, whether that's systems of instructions or just systems of how they do school. Every school has a culture. And so again, the culture must be fostered, whether again, that's through academics, but also through some of those social, emotional learning resources and skills that students need to develop, and also just the behaviors and beliefs and mindsets of the adults. And then obviously leadership is where it all lies. And so part of, again, working with the AVID system is making sure that you have resources to develop all 4 of those domains.
And then the way AVID's secondary is set up, so the way AVID is implemented at your middle schools and your high schools is twofold. First of all, there's the AVID elective. So it's really focused attention on a group of students identified by the staff there at the school. And if you look to the right under AVID elective student profile, the student can meet one or several of these general profiles here. So number one, a lot of our students are the first in their family to attend college. That's not exclusive. It's not every AVID student, but most are first in their family to attend college. Most are in that academic middle. And each school and each school district defines their academic middle differently, but they're in that targeted middle group. There seems to be a lot of quote-unquote programs and whatnot that are serving your higher achieving students and even some that are serving your students that are struggling in need of intervention. AVID, the elective, is really for those students in the academic middle who have the capacity for rigorous courses. Teachers know they can excel in rigorous courses, but they just need some extra support. And that's what AVID provides. It provides those strategies and attention to give those students the extra support so they can succeed in those rigorous courses and be on a clear pathway to college and career readiness. The second part of AVID secondary is what we call AVID school-wide. So this is where AVID strategies are implemented across the classrooms and across the campus. So regardless if a student is in the AVID elective or not, all students benefit from those AVID best practices and those instructional strategies. So if we can go on to the next slide. And this is where we are currently. These are the school districts where we are in Virginia. So I'm sure you recognize a few of these school districts that are not far from you. There's 13 in total, and Roanoke, like Danville, will be the newest additions to the AVID family coming up this coming school year.
And AVID has been implemented in the state of Virginia for over 35 years now.
And this is our impact in the state of Virginia. So when we look at our AVID seniors, 82% took at least one course of rigor, 100% graduated from high school, 96% completed 4-year college entrance requirements, 100% applied to 4-year college university. So we have plenty of data over decades to show the effectiveness of AVID. So it's a really great system. It's not a program, it's a system. And when implemented, it can be a real benefit to different priorities and initiatives that the school district is working on as a whole. So it could be an equity initiative, it could be an initiative to raise graduation rates, whatever the initiative is, or initiatives, we really align perfectly well with what you're doing already to help bring that extra support in to raise those achievement levels. If we can go on to the next slide, perfect. And this is just an example of some of our national data here. When we break out our data and disaggregate by ethnicity, AVID really does eliminate the achievement gap. So regardless of not just ethnicity, but socioeconomic background, when students have that opportunity and support for success, they achieve. And that's really the beauty about it. There is no gap. And the next slide. And I'm just going to go ahead and pass this over to Dr. Jamie Lomax so she can talk about specifically what AVID provides.
So in essence, again, AVID is a comprehensive system that is going to provide professional learning, not just any professional learning. We have testimonies from so many educators who have been in education 30, 40 years, and they come to an AVID training and they come back and say, wow, I feel like I've been teaching for 30 or 40 years, but I've been teaching the same thing. This really has given me a whole different outlook on how to approach the same content that I've had. And so we know that one, what makes our professional learning so relevant is that they're facilitated by current practitioners. So in other words, when your principals attend AVID training, even when your superintendents come to some of our leadership trainings, we have actual current superintendents, actual current principals, current math teachers, current English teachers delivering, again, the professional learning. These are individuals who work in an AVID school. And so, again, part of what makes our trainings and our professional learning so relevant is that it is current with current practitioners. We also make sure that our professional learning is customized. It's nothing for us to come to your school district and provide any type of training that's needed based on, again, that assessment of the areas that you're looking to continue to grow academically. And we also offer regional trainings with you sitting in the area where you're sitting. We have, Winston-Salem, we have Martinsville, Danville. So it's nothing for us to have what we would call a regional training where your teachers and administrators would be able to come for a day and be able to engage in professional learning. Also, our professional learning is just that, it's an experience because it's followed up with coaching. So it's not just training, it is true professional learning that is driven, again, by follow-up coaching. So part of working with the AVID system is receiving a support team. Your support team would consist of, obviously, myself, along with, I have 3 program managers, as well as another director, and we serve, again, the state of Virginia and other states around you. And part of what we do is making sure that we are continuously assessing and supporting, all the way from observing classes to assisting with strategic planning. And so part of that is making sure that the professional learning is coupled with coaching and furthermore resources. You will have an access to a plethora of resources from digital and virtual resources to actual tangible resources as well. We have made the shift. Everything that we've offered face-to-face in the past over this last year, we have shifted and we're now offering it in a virtual space as well. We will continue to offer face-to-face and virtual when we return to face-to-face. And so again, we will have all of those resources in both formats and will basically be prescribed based on whatever your district's needs may be. So in essence, when you do adopt the AVID system, you are not only getting access to engage in professional learning, but you are receiving your own customized coaches that continue to work with you, and also access to a plethora of resources from curriculum to other resources. Also, some of the resources that we have access to is that our students are able to become Dell Scholars. That's one of the scholarship programs that require students be a part of an approved college and career readiness system. AVID is one of them. We also have all types of college and career exploration days. We host college days. So there's so many resources that are not just academic resources that your students will have access to as becoming part of the AVID system to continue to develop them. So with that being said, I think we are at the end. I know we were definitely trying to make sure we did not go over our time. We wanted to make sure that we turn it back over to Ms. Agner and Dr. Bowman.
Thank you, Dr. Lomax, and thank you, Beto. So this is what's coming up next for Danville Public Schools. Our first thing is we have to identify our teams. And of course, those teams will be coming from George Washington High School, Galileo, Bonner, as well as Westwood. They will consist of 8 people on each team, so they will consist of the principal, the assistant principal, a school counselor, and a teacher from each core area, as well as the elected teacher for the AVID elective. The teams will register, as Dr. Lomax alluded to earlier, everything will be virtual this year. In the past, they've had an opportunity, they've gone to Philadelphia as well as Florida. So this time they will be able to do it in the comfort of their homes. Site-based team, and they will attend, the registration will be on Thursday, April 22nd, and that's an onboarding session. So Ms. Agner and I will be meeting with principals with some recommendations for these teams. Also, it's important that they get started because this has to be built into the schedule. The elective has to be built into the schedule for the middle and the high school. And then, of course, they have to identify the students who will be a part of the AVID elective. And then the training will take place in June 28th through 30th, and I think the times are 8 to 3, so the teachers will be able to do that. Also, what we really want to stress to you as school board members, you have an opportunity yourself in the past, as I said, we have gone to Florida or either Philadelphia, but you will have an opportunity to attend virtually. Dr. Harrison already indicated that she would like to attend on June 28th from 8 to 4. AVID actually provides this opportunity to the superintendents as well as school board members free of charge. You do not have to pay as we pay for our team members. So we do hope that you will take advantage of that opportunity to find out a little bit more about AVID. And it's not just about our students. Those sessions are actually geared specifically to you, and you network with other school board members as well as superintendents. So any questions?
Mm-hmm. Does anyone have any questions regarding the AVID program?
I just have, so we are looking at having this start this upcoming school year?
Yes. So the team will be identified in the next couple of weeks. They will be registered. They do onboarding on the 22nd and attend the training in June.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you all again. All right. Next, we will move to section 8.4, school schedules, and we will hear from Dr. Lau. Welcome, Dr. Lau.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. In your packet tonight, you should have a copy of the memo that I prepared for you to talk about proposed changes to our school and transportation schedules for the upcoming school year. The primary impetus for proposing these changes really deals with the number of students who have elected to go virtual for the upcoming school year. Looking at that almost 1,400 students who have elected to participate in the virtual academy really provides us an opportunity to restructure the way that we currently operate our buses. If you look at the chart there at the bottom of page 1, you will see that currently we are operating under a 4-tiered schedule. So the first tier there shows that our 2 middle schools are in that first tier. Then we have the next set of schools are in tier 2. And then our 2 high schools are in tier 3. And then finally we have 3 of our elementary schools there that are in tier 4. So for the upcoming school year, what we would like to do is look at consolidating the number of tiers that we have from 4 to 3. And there are some advantages to doing what we're proposing. So for example, principals who have singleton teachers right now in their building really don't have an opportunity to collaborate with other teachers. But if all elementary schools were operating under the same schedule, a singleton teacher at one school could participate virtually in a collaborative planning session with teachers at another building. One of the other things that we would like to look at too is that, really research supports older students starting their school day at a later time versus at an early time, because we know that those students have a tendency to stay up later, probably sometimes more than they should. So allowing them to start their school day later would be an advantage for them. And so the other advantage would be if we allowed our older students to begin their school day later, they would still be at home to supervise their younger siblings who would be starting their school day earlier. But with all of those considerations in mind, what we would like to do is we would like to survey our teachers and our families based on the two options that we have here, and then bring back that feedback that we received to one of our board meetings in May to allow action to be taken at that time so that we could begin planning for the upcoming school year.
So I wanted to say option A actually moves really all three levels, elementary, early, high school, and the pre-K was placed with the high school simply because of the way we must transport pre-K. Pre-K is not attendance zone driven, and we just didn't have enough buses. So it moves high school up a notch, middle school back to the last tier, and elementary in the beginning tier. The only change for B is that there are 3 or 4 elementary schools that are on another 4th tier, and that would get all of them at 7:45. Middle school would remain the same, high school would remain the same, and pre-K would be later. And right now, we pick up pre-K students around 6:15, 6:30 in the morning. And I had the wonderful privilege of riding the bus with the pre-K students, and 6:30 is super early. It's dark in the winter. It's dark most times at 6:30, but we could get them on the tier with high school. We might get some feedback, but what we want to do, if you all are okay with this, is we would like to put this out for option, bring back a recommendation, and we might bring back a recommendation of no change, but we'd like to just put it out to see what would happen with the staff and parents in an A or B.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have one. I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep asking questions.
It's
but
fine.
You say we might come back with one of no change, so are we going to give them that option too?
No. But if we get 1,000 hits on A and B, you kind of read the tea leaves. And
well, as they say in some of those family shows, good answer.
Ms. Heath.
I was going to say, this is really a good thing to do, because I have had some people ask me questions about that. It's like, why are we all over the place, and why are they starting at certain times, whatever. So this makes a lot of sense, and I think you're going to be really pleased with the responses that you get. It's probably not going to stay the same.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to provide some consistency. Right now we have some elementary schools operating under one schedule, we have some operating under another, and really this is to bring consistency among all those levels. Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move to section 9.1, and we will hear from Mr. Payne for Finance Committee update. They had a meeting on March 25th.
I'm filling in for Mr. Brandon Atkins. All the board members were present for this meeting Thursday, March 25th. Also, the Danville Public School staff included Dr. Harrison, Dr. Newton, Ms. Barksdale, Ms. Lawson, and Ms. Lipscomb. They was all present also. Ms. Sharon Barksdale presented the superintendent's recommended the 21-22 budget. Highlights from the budget, which you heard earlier this evening, includes the proposed raise for all employees, reduced class sizes, wraparound service for children, increased maintenance and attention to facilities, and the performance track at the George Washington High School gym. Ms. Melissa Newton shared the staffing guide for the 21-22 year, which was developed to ensure we use the state staffing formulas to budget for professional staff and the use of the local formulas to determine classified staffing needs. And Ms. Lipkin presented the division organized chart, which addresses the action items in the Denver Public Schools action plan related to the human resources. And we had a great meeting. I just want to thank, on the behalf of the chair, Mr. Brandon Atkins, for everyone that attended that meeting and for everyone that put forth an effort to bring change and had a good meeting for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Does anyone have any questions? Just for information. All right, thank you. Next, we move to 10.1, personnel recommendations. We will hear from Ms. Mona Whittle. Welcome, Ms. Whittle.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The Department of Human Resources has prepared the personnel recommendations for your review and hopefully your approval. With that, if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer those. Otherwise, I do request your approval.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Whittle regarding personnel recommendations? No questions. This is an action item.
So moved.
Been moved by Dr. Campbell, seconded by Mr. Payne to approve the personnel recommendations as presented. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. McWilliams?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell? Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobbs?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Whittle.
You're welcome.
Move to 11.1, we'll bring Ms. Barksdale back up for our accounts, to approve the accounts payable warrants.
Good evening. I hope you all had a chance to look at the warrant for this week. It's warrant 187 for our accounts payable. And the total of that warrant is $587,621.23. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have about anything you saw in there, and I will ask for your approval.
Did I see a hand? No. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Barksdale? Okay. All right, no questions. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Been moved by Mr. Graves, seconded by Ms. Hughes to approve the accounts payable warrants. Any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mr. McWilliams?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell? Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobbs?
Yes. All right, thank you, Ms. Barksdale. Section 12, we'll turn it over to Dr. Hairston. We'll welcome in one new appointment, and then we will take action on 3.
Thank you. If I can slip 2 in there, one
Okay.
you just approved. I'm sorry. A couple of weeks ago, or almost a month ago, I brought forward Dr. Mary Ann Mitchell for the position of Director of Curriculum. She was unable to be here that evening, so I did want to introduce Dr. Mitchell to you. If you'll stand. She has a doctorate in education leadership from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. She has a master's in administration from North Carolina A&T and a bachelor's in elementary education. She's currently the principal at Reedsville High School. She serves as an elementary principal in both Rockingham County and Guilford County, and as an elementary school teacher. She has with her this evening her husband Terrence, so if you'll join me in welcoming them, I did want to introduce Dr. Mitchell to you all.
Welcome to Danville Public Schools, and thank you all for being here tonight.
And you just approved on the personnel list, and so these positions are not brought to you individually, but they are on the personnel recommendation list. And I felt compelled to thank you for this opportunity to introduce Mr. Michael O'Brien. Mr. Michael O'Brien is no stranger to us. He's been on special assignment with special education. He's been working on our CAP with us. He served as principal and instructional specialist in Richmond County Schools, has a bachelor's in special education, a master's in education leadership. He is on the personnel list for a position of coordinator of special education, so I wanted to recognize him as well.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. All right.
Director of Leadership.
Next, item 12.1, an administrative appointment for Director of Leader Quality.
Yes, we have Dr. Misty Webster Williams. Dr. Williams holds a doctorate in education leadership from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. She also has a Master of Administration from the same university and a Bachelor of Arts in English from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. She's currently, until hopefully tonight, serving as a Senior Executive Director of Leadership in Chapel Hill. She has served in other positions in an Executive Director to Leadership and Talent Development in Chapel Hill. She's done the Induction and Professional Development Program for 5 years in Guilford County and other professional development opportunities to support our leaders. Her role is actually working closely with Dr. Wayne Lyle to support our principals in their leadership development. I'm recommending this evening Dr. Misty Webster Williams for the position of Director of Leader Quality.
All right, thank you. So this is an action item, so we need to take action. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for administrative appointment, Director of Leader Quality.
A second.
It's been moved by Ms. Hughes, seconded by Mr. McWilliams to approve the recommended appointment, Dr. Misty Williams for Director of Leader Quality. Any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. McWilliams?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell? Mrs. Cobbs?
Yes. All right. Welcome. And we can clap now. We get ahead of ourselves sometimes when we get right here. But welcome to Danville Public Schools. All right. 12.2, we will hear administrative appointment, Director for Professional Learning.
Yes, we have Dr. Tanya Steele. She'll stand. Dr. Steele holds a doctorate in teaching and learning from Kennesaw State University, a specialist from Kennesaw State University. She has a bachelor's in elementary education. She has served in professional learning positions as lead teachers at Morningside Elementary and Board Elementary in Atlanta. She served as a model teacher leader in Atlanta, supporting other teachers in professional development. She has served as a principal in Marietta and most recently a principal right here at Woodrow Wilson Intermediate School. I'm recommending Dr. Tanya Steele for the position of Director of Professional, is it development or learning?
Learning.
Development of learning. Thank you.
All right, so this is another action item. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve Dr. Tanya Steele as Director for Professional Learning.
Second.
Okay, I heard three, but no, it's been moved by Mr. Graves, seconded by Mr. Payne to approve Dr. Tanya Steele as Director for Professional Learning. Any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. McWilliams?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobbs?
Yes. Congratulations, Dr. Steele. Next, we will hear an administrative appointment for the principal of Westwood Middle School.
Yes, we have someone who would like to bring back home, Miss Judy Cox. Miss Judy Cox is enrolled in a doctoral program at Virginia Tech. She has a master's degree in special school, school administration. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education from AVID with endorsements in early childhood, middle school education in English, and a mentor teacher. Ms. Cox has served as a teacher at Forest Hills. She's worked in as a student information trainer. She's been a teacher at Gibson Middle, principal at Townsley, principal at Woodbury Hills Elementary, and she went up to Martinsville to Albert Harris and did a turnaround. It was a non-accredited school, and she was able to turn that school around, and she currently serves as a coordinator of mathematics, students' performance data, and gifted services for the Martinsville City Schools. I'm recommending Ms. Judy Cox for the position of principal of Westwood Middle School.
This is an action item.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
It's been moved by Dr. Campbell, seconded by Mr. Payne, to approve Ms. Judy Cox as the principal of Westwood Middle School. Any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Mr. McWilliams?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Graves?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobbs?
Yes. All right, welcome back, Ms. Cox. We'll move to section 13.1. Are there any board requests for information for future agenda items? No requests. City Attorney, any comments?
I don't have any comments.
All right, Dr. Harrison?
I just want to thank everyone for their engagement and hard work since my arrival December 1st, and I hope everyone takes time to take a break over spring break, and that you enjoy your Easter holiday, and again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. McWilliams?
Yeah, just a couple thank yous. Thank you to Dr. Newton for multiple reports. And again, it's like she does everything. And I want to thank Ms. Bowman for that AVID report, because I actually asked about AVID in the last board meeting. I didn't expect to hear it in the next board meeting. So I just want to thank you guys for that.
Mr. Payne?
I'd like to welcome everyone that just came on board on today. Danville Public Schools is a team and a family, and up under the leadership of Dr. Hairston, I feel that we're going in the right direction. I want to start off to piggyback off of Mr. McWilliams, Ms. Barksdale. Ms. Barksdale.
Multiple reports too.
Ms. Barksdale, you just, the pressure of the board sometimes and different things. I just want to say publicly, I appreciate all you do. It may be looked over, but what you do is very, very important. And I want to say thank you for just taking the time to do this. I know sometimes you may want to just go outside and holler, but we really appreciate what you do. And Dr. Newton, I made the comment to her last week. She's very quiet when she comes to the meeting, and she always sits in that corner, but she watches everything. And job well done, job well done. And I think, you need to make sure that you give honor to where honor is due. And I really appreciate you all, because I can really see that this team is turning around. And you can feel it when you come in. Everybody's laughing and smiling. And I think if we keep that same mindset and continue to move forward, I think Danville's going to reach the top in a matter of a year or two. And I believe that. He's not here on today. Mr. Philip Gardner, and I wanted to say this. One of his employees in the cafeteria at Westwood, Mr. Richardson, he lost his wife on last week, and I have seen Mr. Gardner go over and beyond for this family. He was there the next day after Mr. Richardson's wife passed, and took trays, and he was just there, just present. And I wanted to say publicly also, job well done to Mr. Gardner, because you can send a card, but when you're actually there with the family, that means a lot to the family to see that we just don't have a supervisor that's there with us when we at work, but he came and stopped his day to spend time with us. So I want to thank him also. I also want to recognize my two daughters. We was talking about I think it's the benchmark test that's going on now. My daughters are very close to me, if y'all don't know. They call every morning, they call throughout the day. And my daughters had scored over I think it's a 400 to pass, but they scored over and beyond on that. So I want to recognize them tonight and make sure they know that Daddy loves them. And the reason why I wanted to say that is because we have a trying time now, and people, we need to show love. We need to show love on every account that we can. And now our children need to know that we love them. If we love on them, they're going to continue to move forward. So I want to say publicly that, you know, I love my two daughters. You know, they did as girls, and I get emotional when I talk to them, but they good in school. So I want to, as I end, thank the board for allowing me to be a part of this great team. I look forward to continuing to serve this great city of Danville. And Madam Chair, Vice Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Payne.
Dr. Campbell?
I'm so glad to hear tonight about many things, and welcome for all of the ones, as Mr. Payne has said, to new appointees, and to hear about the teachers will receive compensation in the future. That is always a plus. And also the track. That's something that certainly Danville needs. I want to also say, since Mr. Payne took up my time, that I want to give kudos to Danville Public Schools in partnership with the City of Danville and Goodwill Industries. They launched the Summer Youth internship today for DPS students. My understanding, they will be placed in internships and receive transportation assistance and have the opportunity to gain valuable workplace skills. That's what it's all about. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell.
Ms. Hughes?
Oh, well, and I think so many things have already been said. I'm trying to keep this brief. Really excited, as Mr. McWilliams is, about the AVID program getting started. Welcome to all of the new members of the Danville Public Schools family, team, whatever you want to call it. And we hope that you'll enjoy and be really happy and feel like you're part of the team, and we're going to work together to move forward. I think Mr. Payne was talking about an example for Mr. Gardner, and I believe we have other examples here in Danville Public Schools of what's called servant leadership. It means a great deal for that relationship to be there when people know that, yes, I'm your leader, but I'm also here to serve you, to help you be all you can be. That also goes into the relationship that we know all our teachers are forming with our students to help them achieve the things that they need to achieve. And I just want to ask everyone to keep up the good work. And lastly, but not least, I know that staffing guide, in working through that situation was not an easy task. Thank you, Ms. Lipscomb and Dr. Newton, for your time that you spent on that, and of course, Dr. Harrison. Thank you so much, because that even that part helps us get a better focus on what it is that we're supposed to be doing, so that we can get the work done the right way and just move forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Graves?
Oh, what's left to say? Just real briefly, I'm just sitting watching. I hadn't said much tonight, but I just watched the tone of the room. We have a lot of new faces, a lot of new appointments, a lot of great things happening right here in Danville. And I'm extremely excited about it. When I came in, I looked at my folder, and it was like a kid in a candy store. We had so much going on. We had an amazing budget. We had an org chart. We had all this information that was amazing right in front of our face. And I'm excited about it, and just seeing all these positions and all these opportunities, for our kids, that's extremely important to me. But to the 5 appointments tonight, I want to say welcome back. I hope you're as excited as I am for you. Mr. O'Brien, when they announced your fan club in the back went crazy. I don't know if you saw it, but I saw it. And to the people, Ms. Judy Cox returning back to Danville. We always welcome you open arms. You're right across the street from us. Dr. Williams, Amazing person. We connected as soon as I went up and spoke to her. I'm so excited. I love the energy that you brought in just 5 minutes of your time talking to you. Dr. Mary Ann Mitchell, you're right up the street from us. I'm excited about you coming. And everybody, Miss Dr. Tanya Steele, she's been here with us. You know, and it's always amazing when we see promotions within our district as well. That's amazing. Well wishes to Zaire Stevens, a 6th grader who is going to be competing nationally. That's exciting. So we have great things, and that's right in Miss Judy Cox building. So you have a lot to look forward to. And to Mr. Richardson family, I just want to send my condolences to the family and the loss of his wife. If you continue to pray for them. Thank you.
Mrs. Cobbs?
We've heard a lot of great things tonight, and tomorrow begins spring break, I believe. And so I'll just say, I hope everyone gets a lot of rest. And at this time, I will entertain a motion to recess.
Madam Chair, I move recess for 7 minutes.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Gray, seconded by Mr. McWilliams to recess for 7 minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. McWilliams?